There's a movement brewing, and that movement is the Me Total lifestyle.
It centers around you keeping your sense of self intact and in gaining clarity of purpose as you age. I'm Carrie.
I'm Joe.
I'm JM.
And we're on a mission to show you how to enjoy friends, fellowship, and life without substance dependence.
It's time to discover how you can begin living a Me Total lifestyle.
Right here on the FUZZEE'ish podcast. Let's go.
Hank Leber, co-founder and CEO of League of Play, epitomizes innovation and visionary leadership in the digital realm. With an extensive background that spans from launching groundbreaking platforms to driving significant growth in various startups, Leber has made a mark as a pioneering entrepreneur with a deep passion for growth and product development. At the heart of Leber's current venture, League of Play, is the ambition to revolutionize sports entertainment for Gen Z. The platform is set to offer live interactive competitions with top global creators, integrating commerce, contests, and fantasy sports in a way that engages a new generation of fans. This endeavor reflects Leber's consistent pursuit of creating platforms that merge technology with user engagement, pushing the boundaries of traditional digital interaction. Hank's journey is marked by notable successes in ventures, including his role in Gigster, where he led the platform to become a go-to marketplace for major clients like Netflix, HBO, Disney, and Nike, showcasing his ability to scale businesses effectively. His entrepreneurial spirit was further evidenced in the co-founding of C3 Labs, Execute LA, Vitamin, and Gonna Be, each venture illustrating his knack for identifying and capitalizing on niche markets with innovative solutions. Hank Leber is not just an entrepreneur, he's a forward thinker who seamlessly blends creativity with strategic business growth. His career is a testament to his ability to foresee digital trends, engage with the latest in technology, and lead ventures from conceptual stages to successful enterprises. Through his work, Leber continues to inspire innovation and leadership, proving that with the right vision and dedication, one can significantly impact the digital world. His journey with sobriety from alcohol is only just beginning, and we don't know where it will lead. When I asked him to come onto the pod, it wasn't solely to focus on his own abstinence, but to lend a perspective on Gen Z creators who are redefining productivity as we speak. With that, let's get into the show. Welcome back to the FUZZEE'ish podcast. I'm your host, as always, Joey Q, and we've got my co-host, JM. And today we've got a special guest. We've got another Virginia boy. I know we haven't brought that many of them to you over the past 6 months, but Hank Leber joins us. He's the CEO and main guy of League of Play. We look forward to getting into what League of Play is, because I think the people that he's bringing to the table in terms of building that product out have something to say about Me Total. And Hank himself is on a very recent journey with Me Total, so we want to get into his story a little bit as well. But before we do that, Hank, me and you met in about 2007, 2008 at the VCU Brand Center in Richmond, Virginia. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself, first of all, growing up in Virginia, what brought you to VCU, and then what have you been up to since that point? I know it's been a while now, but we've had the pleasure of keeping up for the past 15 years. So give us a little bit of the backstory, and then we'll jump into the Me Total journey.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on the pod. Big fan of you guys. The pod, I've been a listener since the start, and just excited to be here. The backstory. I mean, going back to us meeting at Brand Center 2007. Just before that, so I grew up in Virginia. I went to William & Mary for undergrad back in the dark ages. Graduated in 2004 or 5, and I took my English.
Did you know Todd Garland?
I did not know Todd Garland. In fact, I knew almost nobody on campus because I left campus every weekend, because it's not very much of a partyish kind of campus.
Yeah.
It's really just
close.
not.
Yeah,
you know. And so I was more of a get out and party kind of guy, and I would go back home. I'd go back toward Hampton Roads, Norfolk, Virginia Beach area, and I wound up playing in a rock band on the weekends. That's what I did. Nice. With my second half of William & Mary, and then when I graduated, took the English degree and went full on into the rock band life. And we toured for 5 years full time.
Wow. Cool.
So up and down the East Coast, there's so many places to play, bars and clubs and venues.
What was the name of the rock band, in case anybody
band
wants
was
to
called Rain Market.
Rain Market.
Rain Market.
Yeah, weird name. Not a great name. Everybody thought Rainmaker, but no, Rain Market. It's funny. We just we were working on tracks when we got to the end of our run. We got a major label sort of deal on the table, kind of, and it didn't work out. And so it's kind of like missing your A round as a startup. Like if you don't get it, you can't get to the next level. So we were recording music back then. It's crazy. This happened like yesterday. We were recording music back then out of Nashville, and we put it away. When we shut the band down, we didn't release it. We didn't do anything with it. It was the next album coming, and we just released it yesterday just for fun. It was like, let's put it up on Spotify, whatever. It's been 17 years. And so we just put it out. So anyways, feel free to go.
Congratulations, man. Yeah, let's go give that the Rain Market a lesson.
Rain Market.
Rain Market sounds like
Rain
it sounds
Market.
like a cloud seeding program in LA or like a chemtrails thing. Like
It was nothing but negative. The name was not a good idea. We did not do a good job naming it. But it was fun music. We had a great time. I mean, 5 guys, 4 on stage and 1 tour manager. And what it was really was small business and startup training. No lie. Like we had to sell a physical product, CDs, but in 2002 to 2007, that whole world changed. Streaming was taking over. MySpace was the new website. There were no CD sales. Record deals were totally upside down. So like we had to switch from CDs to digital and digital distribution and make your own website and touring. And so it was a lot of, retrospectively looking at it, was a lot of startup training. So I had 5 years of like in the trenches startup training, but like with silly haircuts and a lot of drinking. So like that's what that 5 years was like. But we did a great job, had a great time. Some of the funnest, most enjoyable years of my life, honestly, was trying to make it. And we weren't just partying and all of that. We would drive, from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. to the next venue and get a little bit of sleep and go to work and play the show. So anyways, that the band didn't work out. I remember thinking, okay, now I'm like 27 and my resume looks ridiculous. Like I have 5 years in a rock band on my resume and like an English degree. So like, what am I going to do? I think my girlfriend at the time was like, you should go into marketing and advertising. You're really good at that. And I was like, I don't know anything about that. I just know music, babe. Just music. She's like, no, come on.
I just want to rock.
The school in Richmond that literally like you did all of the like the tour design and the posters and the albums and the stuff. You ran the business. Like that's all marketing, And I didn't know that at the time. I remember going to Brand Center. I don't think I've ever told you this, Joey. I went and interviewed at the VCU. It was called the Ad Center at the time. They switched the name right when I was in the middle of it. Brand Center. It's a 2-year master's in mass communications. Great program. It's like Ninja Boot Camp, Navy SEAL for smart thinking about humans and culture and communications. 2-year master's. And so I went and went and toured it. And they showed you like how advertising works. Here's the art directors and the copywriters and the brand managers and the strategists who do like the research and stuff. And I was like, cool. And they said, I did the whole day and I was like, this is so cool. People get paid to be like just doing creative, like thinking about creative ways to advertise. This is amazing. I'd love to do it. I'm really interested. And she goes, which track? And I was like, all of them. And she was like, no, you have to pick one. I was like, why? And so in my mind, it was, no, you just make it happen, do all of it, figure it all out together. And that's when I realized, and she helped me understand, there's disciplines that have a specialty and you work together on teams to do it. And then the one that made the most sense to me was strategy, which is thinking about why people do the things they do and just doing consumer research, primary, secondary research, and understanding the so what and the insights that exist in culture, and then bringing that into the creative process and saying to a creative team, here's what's going on with people. Here's why they're not doing or doing this. And we need to figure out how to make them, understand this product better, not lie to them, not trick them, but show them the truth, the lens of truth. That's when advertising works really well. It's when it's a lens that shows you the truth that resonates with you. So anyways, that was the journey into advertising. Jumped out of Brand Center 2009 when the world fell apart and the housing crisis and the advertising world imploded and 70,000 people lost their jobs just in advertising. So got lucky, got a job at McKinney, the ad agency in North Carolina, in Durham, and stayed there for about a year and a half. Did some great work on Travelocity, Sherwin-Williams, Coldwell Banker, Nationwide Insurance, and then wound up taking a job offer out in LA on Lexus to be on the digital team over there to help them get into, at the time, it's 2011, mobile, social, digital, all that stuff. Like Lexus was trailing on that. And so I went out there to work on that.
Were you client direct or were you at team one?
Team one. It was a team one. which was really fun to see such a big car brand, big advertiser, and like under the hood of the agency and how that all comes together. Turns out there at the time in 2011, there really wasn't a big appetite for innovation into social. This is back, Joey, when you were probably like,
I was working on cars. I was on Audi.
Oh, yeah, you were doing really innovative stuff with Audi, and I was over there banging my head on the wall with Lexus not being able to get some of the initiatives through on social or mobile or anything, and that just felt frustrating for me. And at the same time, the startup world was really booming in LA. Like you literally could get an idea funded with like pictures of an app on a slide deck, and they'll give you money to go make it. So I wound up just doing that. I left advertising and jumped into the startup world because in that year, in 2011, I think it was that very year, I couldn't get anything through to the client about social or mobile. Maybe I just wasn't selling right, whatever, but I couldn't get it through. In the meantime, Instagram went from a non-existent business to $1 billion sale to Facebook in 18 months flat, and fundamentally changed the way culture, my entire generation, shared ideas and everything. And remember, I'm a strategy guy, and I'm like, that is really fascinating. That big giant hole in culture that, Instagram just like dropped a bomb into it. And I was like, that's so exciting. And that was my midlife crisis at 30 was, I don't want to make ads. Those are just like the interruptions to the things that you're doing in culture. I want to make the things. And that was it. So I jumped out in the startup world.
Real quick, before we move on past Lexus, I just have to bring this up because I feel like it's worthwhile talking about. Was Alan Harker at Team One at this point? CFO?
I don't believe so. If he was, I didn't know it.
I went up crossing paths with him later on at Vayner. He was an old Saatchi guy, worked at Team One, did the whole thing out there and on the West Coast. Either way, that's irrelevant here, not here nor there. But what I did want to mention was
Alan Saatchi. What's up, though, Alan Saatchi?
What's up, Alan? It's Saatchi. But
holler at your boy, Alan.
No, but I remember at that time. It's funny that you mentioned kind of like your experience trying to sell in social, because I remember at that exact time, Scott Keogh, who's the CMO of Audi at the time, used to always consider social media an innovation and always wanted to fund it because he looked at it as first mover opportunity, first mover advantage. So we were incentivized to try things that brands like Lexus and BMW and Mercedes weren't. And I remember thinking with my team, I was like, we've probably got about a 1 year, 2 year run before these brands start understanding what we're doing. And funny enough, you mentioned Instagram. At that same time, we were one of the first 10 brands on Instagram. And as such, all we did was post a photo a day on Instagram, and we grew an audience of 1.5 million followers in 1 year just doing that, just that one thing every single day. And sure enough, it was the first mover innovation advantage that we took advantage of.
If you build it, they will come.
Well, that was the window. I felt the energy and possibility, and it was like it was very uncomfortable to feel how excited that was and to not get the interest from the client at the time. Because what had happened in Bikini to even, I'll tell the story because we're ad guys and it's fun to wax poetic a little bit about it. At McKinney, I did a project with Travelocity that was to put the gnome on chat roulette. Back when chat roulette was a hit thing for a minute. This was before Omegle and before cool like the video chatting. But like this Russian kid had built a 16-year-old had built a website where you randomly chat with a stranger on the internet and you can pass by them and whatever, you just randomly video chatting. And that wound up getting 20 million unique visitors a month to the website. And you could see that all these articles are being written about this new smash of a thing. And I was like, well, where are the brands? There's no brands on the thing at all. And so, but I remember thinking, okay. Why are there not brands? All right. So it's not a broadcast channel. It's 1-to-1 chats, 20 million at a time. So like, there's no one to many. There's no broadcasting at all. Okay. That's really hard. Then how would you even get a brand to be on one brand and one conversation? You know what? And I'm looking around the agency and McKinney, we do all the TV shoots and all the stuff for the Travelocity. So we have the gnomes all over the office. These like 3-foot acrylic gnomes. Some of them are like burnt. Some are like in a ski outfit. Some are whatever from the TV shoots. And I was like, there's probably like 40 of them around here. I wonder if we could let's put like 40 of them up on a chat and let's flood chat roulette. That's 40. It's not a lot, but maybe that starts a little something. And we couldn't use the voice actor of the gnome because he had a deal. So we just had a note card on the plastic statue that said, this would be more fun if we were in Rio together with like a beach scene behind him, or traveling from person to person doesn't count. Travelocity.com. Get off your computer and get on a plane, that kind of stuff. And we set them up and let them run. And it became a top trending topic on Twitter. Naturally, gnome on chat roulette. It created tens of thousands of retweets and all this stuff. Oh my God, I saw the gnome. This is amazing. And it was a naturally viral thing. We didn't push any paid to it, nothing. It just naturally made. I think the final count after 40 days was 20 million media impressions with $0 spent. Technically probably $1.50 on the note cards and the Sharpie. So anyways, that wound up winning the Chiat Award, the Chiat Strategy, Social Media Strategy of the Year, which is like the Oscars of an account planner.
Sure.
And like, I've been in advertising for like 10 months. And I was like, oh my God, what? I have to go speak at the Chiats and talk to like all the smartest people in my world, all the planning directors at all the agencies. Anyways, my big thing was like, there's the case study video. I'm on stage, like, you know, I'd like the stage, playing a rock band. I was like, cool. But I was nervous because these people can see right through me. I'm not going to be able to like skate around on like the insight behind the Travelocity Gnome, the ambassador of great travel experiences we saw in the Gen Z. No. I said, I don't know. And let it sit silent. And I was like, I don't know why it was such a smashing success in culture, but it was. I don't know. Like, it was fun to have the medium be the message, traveling for person to person. Like, that's fine. But like beyond that, I don't know. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I do. But here's what I do know. I did like 30 things at the agency this past 6 months, and 29 of them didn't do anything. And in digital today, the cost of failure is really small. That just means nobody saw it. So this is not some TV campaign, big swings. If you want to be on the stage next year, right here with the winning thing, go back to your agency, tell all your young people to do 30 things, and don't disparage the brand or anything, but like, just go play around. And then you'll probably be up here on stage next year. That's what I got. Any questions? And I thought I'd be laughed off the stage. And it turns out I got like 7 job offers from that at other agencies who were like, that's innovative. And I was like, no, it's not innovative. But anyways, the head of planning at Lexus was like, hey, let's push on, let's really get some innovation over in the Lexus camp. I really like the way you're thinking. And so that was the idea to go over there. And I think it was just a touch early. And in my own life phase, I had my midlife crisis about the things and not the ads at the time where it made more sense for me to jump out of there. Love the Team One guys, love Mark Miller and all the guys over there. But that was the saga that got me into the startup world on the front edge with the machete in hand, like hacking through the jungle to try and figure out what the next insights are in culture, which is way harder than sitting in an agency trying to get an ad to hit. So that was a lot of retraining my body to like sleep in trees and drink my own urine out in the world, you know, with like barely any funding, like no cushy anything. But then you get addicted to it, because if you can make it through that, you don't want to be in the hotel anymore, metaphorically. So the fast forwarding to today, I've started 4 or 5 different companies on an idea that is an opportunity in culture to try and drop something in. You raise some money to try and test it. So that's 500,000 or $1 million or whatever. Staff a team, build some technology, had to learn all that stuff on the fly. But, you know, I've had some successes and some failures, built B2C mobile app stuff, built B2B SaaS, B2B services, which was just an agency. Turns out didn't like that. A marketplace for production locations like Airbnb for film shoots was my last company, called Gigster, Giggs.
So let's pause for a second and dwell a little bit on JM's background, because JM could probably empathize with the service business side of things, having built and sold an agency very recently. So tell JM about because your agency had a very specific angle to it or bend to it, and it pissed a lot of people off. So tell us about. I mean, it pissed a lot of people off, but a lot of people also considered it to be very innovative and stuff like that. Maybe also an idea that was a little bit before its time, given what we're seeing now post-pandemic. But talk to us a little bit about the agency you founded.
Yeah, so the company that wasn't an agency, it was a SaaS product. It's called Vitamin, VYTMN. It's not around anymore. Scrubbed it from the internet, so don't bother looking it up. But Vitamin was, we called it growth as a service, GAS instead of SaaS. And growth meaning what's going to bring traffic and traction to your business. And in the time, this 2014, when social was like actually, you know, picking up and it was kind of infused into most brands and companies, the stuff you're supposed to be doing on social as a company, small, early stage startup or a small business, even the big ones, likes, favorites, follows, retweets, add to list, all of these things, people were staffing humans to do it, but weren't getting the ROI. And so it was all just kind of a loss leader. Like you would get some vanity metrics, but unless you were with Joey's camp and doing like top quality campaigns with big brands, smaller businesses weren't able to get the ROI from social. So we decided to automate all of that, because back then, Twitter and LinkedIn and most of these, they allowed you to hit the API like crazy. You could do 1,000 actions a day on Twitter. One account could follow 900 people and tweet 99 times, and still that wouldn't be flagged as automation. And we were like, okay, well, that's crazy. Okay. And so we started to build a bunch of accounts for your business. If you had a bamboo framed sunglasses company, Bamboo Specs, we would build like 10, 20 Twitter accounts that were your mercenaries. They were called Bamboo Fashion Trends, Bamboo Lovers, Bamboo Freaks, Bamboo whatever, Sunglass, whatever. And all these like related third-party authority accounts that had an automated feed of sharing out from an RSS, just automated feed of like Bamboo fashion trend articles from the internet, just posting it every few minutes. And the bio of that account would say, this is an automated feed of the best bamboo fashion trends that you'll ever read. By the way, these sunglasses are dope. Bit.ly link to your landing page. And those accounts will go out and like and favorite and follow and all this. Anybody talk about bamboo anything. And so you had all of this noise going on. But that link, the traffic, so you post like, oh man, saw a dude wearing like bamboo slippers. It was amazing. You get some Bamboo Specs or Bamboo Fashion Lovers like that, added you to smart people list. And you're like, really? Well, it turns out people go see who that is, and they read the bio and they click that link. And I remember this clearly. We were able to sell that package through, and the traffic that would hit your landing page it would convert to a sale at an average of 10%.
Wow.
Which is like mind blowing. It's like 10 times anything anybody was getting, because it worked really well. The problem was it flooded the internet with a bunch of social media noise, which was bad.
Debatable whether it's bad. You're still seeing that now on Instagram and TikTok, and then it's kind of having a second life now.
Right. Yeah. Well, now watch out. AI is going to make it all over again. Only the quality is going to be so high, it'll be even harder to detect it. And the reason that company didn't keep going, Twitter changed the 1,000 threshold down to 200 a day, and it eradicated 3,500 Twitter accounts that we had running. We had a reach of like 8 million. We could trend topics if we wanted to. And at 200, it made us have to do 5 times as many accounts and too much overhead for the little tiny startup to handle. If we had more money, maybe, but we didn't. So anyways, that whole story is to say, from the ashes of that company that Twitter just killed with a switch, flip the switch, we just made an agency out of it, which was growth marketing agency. And instead of charging $1,000 a month for the SaaS product, we charged like $10,000 a month minimum to be working with us. And so we picked up a bunch of clients and did a lot of the same stuff just manually. And like, we would build a better landing page and better email marketing. And we just built like full funnel early stage company growth marketing agency, which turned out to be a nightmare. And the reason that was a nightmare was everybody wanted it. It was really easy to sell, really easy to get clients. We probably had 10, 12 clients at any given time. And the meetings would be early stage companies or small businesses that are running out of money and they have very low runway. And they're like, where's the growth? How many conversions did we get? What is the target? Like, what's the messaging? Who's the target? And I'm like, we're trying to figure out your target for you and the messaging, because you don't know it because you're early stage and you barely have any money. And then everything's an emergency all the time. After like 3-4 months, I was super unhappy. I'd wake up every day being like, God, I have to go have all these meetings with these companies as an emergency, and we're talking to the CEO, and I'm not building any IP. I'm not building any value. I'm taking all these skills, and the margins are crap. And it's like, this is the saddest I've ever been, making $100,000 a month. Like, it was just terrible. And so anyways, in LA, there's Hawk Media's out there. I know Eric Huberman really well, and he's built a tremendous marketing agency that does deal with a lot of the earlier stage companies and the bigger churn rate and the emergencies and all, but he's built a great team. They had like 100+ clients at the time. And I was like, Eric, listen, man, like I've got some cool clients over there, but like, I don't like this. Do you like it? And he's like, I like it. And I was like, okay, well, let's figure out a way to work together. And it was that they were just acquired the agency completely and took over the client. So it was a sale. Nobody really got rich, didn't buy a jet or anything, but technically, an acquisition happened, and Hawk Media, a way better home for those clients. And I got back into doing the stuff that I love, which is building technology-based enhancements to whatever it is that's something disorganized in culture. That's really what the best startup ideas, just organize something that's less organized. Uber, the cars, everybody already existed and all of the demand already existed. The technology was kind of basic, but it worked really well. Airbnb, same thing. Not mind-blowing technology, just a website that did this thing for these people and then made this money. So that's I got my mindset right to stay in that world, which is how Gigster came to be, which is Airbnb for film shoots. You can't shoot at Airbnbs. You need a white brick fireplace. You can't find that on the internet and have it land on a house that wants to rent their house to you for 2 hours. So that wound up being great. It's still around. The company's great and working well. But that led to a lot of work with creators, YouTubers and TikTokers renting houses on Gigster to get that pool, backyard pool to do their video. So like thousands of bookings were happening every month with creators. And that was when, I was like, wow. And this creator space is probably like 2018, 19, 20 coming into the pandemic. The creator space was just so obviously blowing up before the big sort of media stories like Mr. Beast and all that stuff. Sure, always got to see like how cool the creator industry is. And that led to the company today, which is League of Play. And one of the investors in Gigster was the global director of Top Creator Partners at YouTube. So he knew all the biggest creators and said, there's an opportunity here for like sports and competitions with top creators. You look at the big boxing matches, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, they're doing these huge pay-per-view events. There's a group called the Sidemen in the UK that are just a bunch of motley gents, and they do a football match once a year that sells out stadiums, like 27,000 capacity stadium in 22. In 23, 60,000 capacity London Stadium, just to watch creators play soccer together. And I'm going, where's the structure? Where's the league of this? Why? I mean, there's millions of people watching, millions of dollars being made, and hundreds of thousands of live attendees. Like, where's the league? Kind of like back in the Travelocity thing. Where's the brands? Like, there's the people, there's the evidence. So that's when I was like, okay, this is it. Let's go get it. And so that's what we're doing now. League of Play is, is live interactive tournaments with top creators, and we're just about to launch in the U.S. a series of tournaments that are different sports like pickleball and dodgeball and ping pong and things that are approachable. But also like the soccers and baseballs and footballs of the world are totally there as well. But what we found with the top creators are you've got these like the big ones, 10, 20, 30 million subscribers, Mr. Beast up there, 250 million plus. They all have similar needs and wants, which is to grow and grow together. And these sport opportunities are collaboration exercises. So it's been really fun getting to know that space.
So two things on that. One is super cool idea. I love it. I also I love the comparison to the Travelocity and sort of how you manufactured another concept using similar strategy and thinking. So you're ready for the stage again, I guess. But my son played in a flag football tournament around the Pro Bowl. They won their little regional thing up here in DC. They go to Florida. They're playing in these games. There's, they have credentials. They feel super cool. Justin Jefferson, one of the more famous wide receivers in the NFL, is speaking on a stage. And there's a creator, a YouTube guy. I wish I could think of his name right this minute. Doesn't matter. Not one of the top tier people, kind of middle of the road, millions of followers for sure. Dude, these kids are lining up to try to be in his little trivia game on this field or get a picture with him. Don't give a shit about Justin Jefferson. And this is kids from my younger son who's 6 up to 16. They're lining up for the creator, could give a shit about Justin Jefferson. So I can see just the wildfire of that, so clearly, and also just running completely rampant because it touches every person of every shape and size and age category, on and on. And so that's super cool. And so second thing, you mentioned boxing matches. You mentioned the Paul brothers. So yesterday there was an announcement that Iron Mike is going to get in the ring with Jake Paul, and they're going to stream it on Netflix. Thoughts? Immediate reaction.
I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all because I live in it every day. We're talking with all these big creators. We know kind of some of the deals that are going on. Didn't know about that one, but like, why would anybody be surprised? The last pay-per-view event that either one of them did, I think it was 32 million in the night. It was the number 5 biggest pay-per-view event ever. And they're all still young guys, Jake and Logan. And so why wouldn't you go bigger and bigger? I think after Mike Tyson, it'll be like Elon Musk or Zuck. Why not? Everybody wants it.
I'm gonna shoot my shot here and call for a Jake Paul victory because I've seen a lot of like top end, like high end boxers like give him a lot of like accolades and thinks he's a really good boxer. So people just clown on him because he's a YouTuber, but like he could box, and he's in really great physical condition. I wouldn't want to. I mean, granted, I understand. I wouldn't want to get in a ring with either of them. I get my head bashed in, but like. I don't know. If I had to pick one versus the other, I'd probably go up against Mike Tyson at 50-something years old versus
he's
Jake
almost
Paul.
60. He's going to be 60 next year, I think.
And I'll take the other side of that, Joey, and I will. We'll figure it out after this call. I'll go up against you. I think Tyson is going to annihilate him.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I agree with you. Jake's in great shape. He's gone from being a YouTube entertainment YouTuber to being a boxer. Cool. How long? 3 years? 4? Maybe? Cool. Good job. Mike Tyson, I'm sorry, like that guy's been boxing longer than Jake's been alive. And I know that he's older. I know that. But do you remember watching him fight? Like one shot is going to put Jake on the floor and knock it out.
I guess we have to like really debate the merits of whether or not this is all real or staged. Because I feel like some of it also is like the outcome is agreed upon before the match. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I can't comment on that. I literally don't know, but it feels like it's real, and they're going to get in there and figure it out. I just feel like when I heard it, and I was like Tyson, Jake Paul. I don't know. I grew up. We all grew up right in that era of Tyson when he was like 18, 19, 20, like annihilating people, and just the power and the speed. I think you know what? I saw some training footage of him on like TikTok a couple of weeks ago, still training, and I watched the speed of his punches, and I was like, oh my God. That guy is still a total killer. He's not a geriatric. And we'll see. I think it's going to be a really good contest because it's not clear who would win. I just feel like Tyson's getting in there and just bob and weave and just hit him right in the jaw with a power punch that Jake Paul has never felt.
There's an enormous aspect of sport, and in particular, something like boxing that is pure fucking mental. And Mike Tyson is, to your point, a killer. I mean, dude, I remember I snuck out of my house when I was a kid in Reston and went and watched that Holyfield fight where he literally bit the guy's ear off. Like that doesn't go away, right? And Jake Paul doesn't have that killer.
He's more of a cage.
Jake Paul is an entertainer, man. Mike Tyson is a killer. So I tend to lean on Hank's thinking there because if you look at Fury, the fight he had with Fury, big punches. He didn't do as well against that. He's done better against guys that are considered boxers that don't have the heavy hands. Mike Tyson has a heavy hand, so we'll see. I can't wait. I don't have to. I already have Netflix, so I don't have to. I wouldn't pay $75 for it. My kids would probably ask me to, but I'll be on Netflix.
So here's a few things. You got Netflix running that fight, which is a little unprecedented, right? There's no DAZN or not a pay-per-view, HBO, any of that. Netflix also bought WWE's was it Monday Night Raw?
Monday Night Raw, yep.
10 years of it for like $9 billion or something. It's a crazy number.
Yep.
And so I'm just saying like back out into the strategist mindset. How many more signals do you need? That creators and sports are an explosive combination that create tremendous value from user eyeballs to dollars to whatever it is that you want to measure. So I'm really excited to be on the early stage of the mainstreamification of it and the league. That is where competitions live. And by the way, though, we don't want to be taking over boxing for creators. Like there'll be these one-offs that happen. They're supposed to out there. We're talking about collaborative, approachable activities, pickleball, dodgeball, mini golf, whatever, that kind of stuff where like, and the reason that is for League of Play, fans and viewers are playing along. So you can vote live on distractions that come into the players if you're watching the live. So there'll be a round during like say a pickleball tournament where you vote on should everyone put on roller skates for the next round or like blindfolded, and then they have to play like that. So it's very collaborative. It's very together. We are going to make this experience a certain way together as fans, which I mean, personally, I'm 43. I have a 5-year-old daughter. Like looking at what's coming up and how social media is affecting, young kids and their this depression is up and suicide is up and loneliness is up because they're all just out. I mean, one driving reason is because they're all just on their phone. This is a togetherification, a collaboration effort to try and get, young people to work together. and to enjoy this together. Maybe do a watch party together for that tournament, which is way more important to us than whether or not we do boxing or whether we do MMA or whether.
So I'm going to segue here something, and probably maybe where Joe was going to go too. You mentioned your daughter and your phone and her phone. I've got 3 kids. I'm just about the same age as you. Mine are 10, 7, and 5, and they all are in devices, right? And we try our best to govern what they're watching, but the reality is they find their way into basically whatever they want. So I'm curious, as you think about these creators and you think about these influencers, and you even think about sort of pop culture and the top of pop culture, the Taylor Swifts of the world, what responsibility do they have to being role models to these kids, right? You see in the world, and you see in the press a lot of conversation around alcohol in particular, these people drinking in public, these people consuming alcohol, talking about alcohol, saying the things that they do. We talk about that on this show a lot, and it's not necessarily just that topic. Generally speaking, what is these people's role as creators or pop culture icons to be role models for the kids that are watching their content on these various devices?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the answer is going to be, at least from our perspective, mine is similar to what we've seen in the Hollywood era and music eras of the past 2-3 decades, which is some stars are known for being loose cannons and out there and edgy, from the Marilyn Mansons of the world to like Billy Idol back in the day, whatever it is. Like, they party and they wear it on their sleeve, and that's what they do. But then that's a class of they're creators like that, and they're known for partying, and they throw all that stuff on their footage, and their fans are that kind of fans. There's a real big group of creators that are just entertainment lifestyle creators, and they don't bring that in. I think that's a new thing that's not as prevalent in the old Hollywood and music eras as today. You're displaying what looks like your regular life, your epic life, but it's like, this is my life, guys. Look, I'm going to go jump off this building today. But they're not all hammered about it. They're not Jackass was probably the last time it was like, whatever, let's just, it didn't matter if you were drinking or not. It was just wild and loose. This is way more responsible of a display of life and enjoyment, where in the mainstream top creator world, you really don't see a lot of alcohol on camera at all. And that's not just because the programming needs to be clean. A lot of these creators just aren't doing that much because they're running multi-million-dollar businesses behind their personal brand. And there's not a record label, and there's not a Hollywood studio. It's straight up you. And that has cut out a lot of.
So I think part of what you're getting at is that because they're independent, there's not the same image consultants and stuff like that. There's not as much pressure to kind of conform to like a caricature of what success looks like as there was with the generation of stars when we were kids, which is kind of fun. And I think that's going to be kind of interesting for our kids to grow up with.
Well, so yes, and you are your consultant. You are the star. You're the writer, editor, director, and star of your own movie that comes out once a week. That is your life. What are you going to do? You're going to drink all over that and be like hungover for your show that you have to film the next. They're filming every day. They got to be like on point. And I think it's a really good example of seeing an entire culture of people, specifically these top creators, who are taking their lives so seriously to be the best version of themselves. They don't drink as much in general. Not saying they don't drink, but alcohol is not a pervasive part of that top creator culture. And I just think that's indicative. It's not necessarily one cause correlation, whatever. It's just how it is, because they're serious about their business and their life. And alcohol doesn't have much of a part in that.
Isn't that so interesting even to say that out loud, right? They are trying to live the best version of themselves. And through all the things that you just said and all of these different measurements and filters and being the best, at the end of the day, they believe, at least it seemingly this seems this way, since most of them can say so, that their best version is without alcohol. And that literally, tying it all back together is the foundation and the thesis of this podcast, or at least how it started, right? The reality for us was alcohol isn't the right answer for us for a lot of different reasons. And there's not necessarily an answer that cures for everyone. It's not I say this all the time. It's not a 1 or 0, sum. It's whatever's a better relationship. And for some it's nothing. And for some it's less often. But the reality is the best version of ourselves is with a better relationship with booze, whatever that is. And it's just cool to hear that personify in such a very different world and from such a different perspective than we've talked about and we've even thought about, frankly, to this point. So I just really appreciate that.
You know, it now that we're talking about it here, I kind of didn't think about this ahead of time, but it seems to be a pretty straight correlation that the me total and the way you guys describe it, which is really just like you've been saying, I don't want to butcher it here, but like a focus on the things that make me the best me that I can be in any situation, from a family member to a friend to a parent to business or whatever, really just focusing on maximizing that. Like you got a pure example of that with a creator who is putting out constant videos about their lives and collaborating with their friends and having to be super on point all the time. What a pure look at what a me total existence looks like, because your business is also you and pretty much everything you do all day. It's not a job that you just kind of go to and phone it in and then leave to get the money, because you could probably be less of yourself there. If you just weren't motivated to be better, that's fine. You can get by with the job. You can't do that as a top creator. You need to be maximally awesome all the time. So you get a really clean look at what a lifestyle looks like when you are the pure reason for your success, and there's no excuses around.
I think one thing that this conversation around the young creator class has forced me to think about in terms of how we think about me total in general is, yes, it is a recipe for being at peak performance, but there's also like a key factor of when. Because I think one thing that we don't necessarily talk about is there's going to be phases of your life where you don't need to be at peak performance. And it's probably okay to learn and go through the learning process of substances and alcohol and stuff like that, but you don't have as much riding on it or as much on the line. When I was 21 years old, there was no pressure on me to go, you run a 60 million person YouTube subscribership. I wish there was, but there wasn't. Right. So, and I'm thankful for the experiences that I've had in the past, because they shaped who I am now. And I haven't necessarily closed the door on maybe when I'm 60 years old, having a glass of wine every once in a while when my kids are in college. But right now, when
I'm going to funnel bourbon 75-ish. I'm going to start.
When my kids are right now, when I'm 44 years old and my kids are 9, 7, 3, and 6 months, there is no other alternative. I have to be at peak performance all the time. I'm not a YouTuber like those guys are, but 4 kids and a high-end career, it's a lot to juggle. And I don't want to be hungover at all, ever right now. So I think the when is a key kind of thing to consider as well.
Yeah, but I gotta tell you, I'm in the same exact camp where we're standing up League of Play right now, which in success is as big as the Olympics, like globally, FIFA,
sure,
like that kind of level, because it exists in all these different countries, different sports, different cultures, different languages. Japan All-Stars play in the US, and it's all creators. Like, that's a massive opportunity. Why would I be anything less than 100% of my sharpness going into conversations with creators, with brand partners, with investors, with stakeholders, with team members? Like, it's time to be ultra sharp. But like I said, whatever, 10, 15 years ago, 17 technically, based on the new release, I drank a lot in the band days, because the definition of your best self was way like low resolution. You know what I mean? Like I had a lower resolution life. It was like, this is great, I'm fine. And I didn't have goals that were bigger or tighter or have a clearer picture of why it was so important to be my absolute 100% best self. And the older I've gotten, especially into these, projects that I'm working on, it just became clearer to me as I got older. And it's funny, like maybe the parallel here in the startup world, I've been doing self-examination, how to be a better, just a better leader, a better startup team member to my co-founders and team. And I've always felt like I wanted to do a better job of creating urgency without emergency. If you look back at the last 10, 12 years of my startup career, I had a lot of times when it wasn't urgent until there was emergency, and then you had to fix it on the fly. And I was moving from one fire to another for years. And it's like some of the best founders I've ever known can dial up urgency without the emergency. So that does relate to this, though, in a way. It's like I personally had to feel the pressure of when to need to be more excellent, to cut back on drinking and things like that, because not an emergency, but I needed the outside pressure. And I think that the most amazing and impressive moves I've seen is when people don't have that urgency, they just want to be better, which is awesome. But
Yeah, it's crazy.
most humans probably need the pressure.
Yeah, but what's crazy is, and kind of tying, but what Joe said and what you're like, I say all the time, there was a time I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, 20 plus years ago, there was a stretch where I was a maniac and we were doing crazy shit. And there are times I'm like, how do we even make it through those days or nights? Right. And I'm so thankful. And if I tried to go that hard again right now, I'd be dead on the street, honestly. And I treasure those experiences because I got it out of my system, right? Like I did it. And then there's not really a thing in my mind. I mean, there is needles and things that I fortunately didn't get to that I don't have as an experience, but I did enough that like, I'm like, I'm good. And so like in this me total or even sober lifestyle that I'm in, I feel like I can do that because I've experienced that. And to Joe's point, these creators, they're at the age when I was going, really hard, and they're not. And I think that there's a tie to the cultural norm of that now, and that there's an acceptance and that there's a movement around, alcohol free, or at least these other things that you have like cannabis and some of the other psychedelics, so you can maybe keep a better frame of mind and not do stupid shit. But going back to your thing about urgency and not emergency, a business founder, built a business, 10 years, sold it a year or so ago. In the services world, to your point, is for the birds. And I say that all the time. I'm still doing it, right? Like selling services is truly for the birds, but somehow, some way, that's what I've been doing for 20 years. What I didn't realize, Hank, was that I went through this thing a few years ago where I was like, you know what, I'm going to try not drinking. It wasn't because I had a serious problem. It wasn't like I was falling in it. I was in a ditch. I had 3 kids already. I was functioning as a business owner and founder. I had a happy wife to a degree-ish, right? Stop drinking. And I got to tell you, dude, the last 3 years, the amount of output that I have been able to put forward, different than the days when I was drinking, the amount of success that I've seen, right? The amount of times where it hasn't felt like an emergency because you just don't have that visceral passion or that angst in your heart. We'll have to talk offline. I can give you 100 examples of this. Is all because I put it down, and period. Like there's no other thing that happened that created the circumstance that ultimately turned into this trajectory like this. And so that's why this show even started, to talk about that, because I can't explain it. David Goggins always talks about, what is that feeling? Like you just get to that, like, that's the feeling of me total. That's like, I am the best version of myself. And now I don't feel like an emergency. I'm going to be the best leader. I'm going to be the best teammate. I can be the best boss. I can be the best Joey Q homie. I can certainly be the best dad and husband, right? I mean, those are the things that matter. And ultimately all the professional success comes from it. And then with your creators, it's infectious. They want to work with you because they feel it too. And so I'm inspired by you, man. It's supernatural and it's super exciting.
It's funny, Hank, because the whole time you were setting up your career, the one thing that you kept saying that resonates with me the most is when you got into something and it was cool and you were like, where's the this, right? Like, where is the this? And I can't tell you how many times I've thought that since I quit drinking, getting out into the world of like alcohol sobriety and stuff like that in 2018 and being like, where are all the non-alcoholic options? Like, this seems like something that almost every person's going to go through at some point in their lifetime, but yet there's nothing here to service those people, like people that have health issues, people that are alcoholics, there's millions of people. And where's the this? Where's anything that's for them? Where's the support groups? Where's the community that are outside of Alcohol Anonymous and stuff like that? And there was none of that stuff. And now there's tons of it, which I'm super happy about. And if anything, we look forward to being able to be the armchair psychologist to people, as well as maybe help get them into stuff that's, maybe going to be a little more therapeutic from a wellness perspective, from a commercial standpoint. But I love the way you think, in that where's the this is something that rings true in my mind. Hopefully not.
So what if that's great. That makes me think 2018 to now is not a long time. That's not a long time at all. But you had pretty much a sea change that is very evident, that there's a lot of those options now. Commercially, maybe businesses give that's because there was some other cultural truth. And that makes my mind go, what happened 2018 and now? Why is 5 years so important in the last 500, or at least the last 50?
COVID.
And
I have my perspective on that. Too.
I have one too. What do you think?
All right,
Jan, what do
no,
you
you go first. I'll wait. I won't lead the
Okay.
witness. Go ahead.
Well, I'm biased here, but I'm going to go creators because you've
Yeah.
got an entire generation of young people coming up who are watching their new heroes. Who you've said, like, they literally line up for one of these creators, not a sports star, not a movie star, not a rock star, creators. And those creators, for the most part, are exhibiting a lifestyle where alcohol isn't in the videos. So like it literally just doesn't get baked in to seeing some drunk rocker on stage in 1993. Maybe you're a bit more likely to go get drunk also. Maybe that's a part of it, is the creator economy has completely boomed from 2018, at least until now. So it's a huge new thing in culture. And on the other side, not the other side, but similar, you've got celebrities that are more and more publicly moving away from alcohol, usually like having a problem and getting on top of it, but being public about it. And I did bring something in. I'll do a reading for you. A reading. I ran across this, which I thought was really good. I'm a big John Mayer fan. We were making music at the same time he was coming up back in the day. So really love him as a musician, as a thinker. He's a smart guy, articulate, and he's famous for having stopped drinking. I don't know if you guys know this story. He went to Drake's birthday party. I don't know how long ago this was, but this is in People magazine, so it's very easy to find. But he went to Drake's birthday party and got just super drunk and had a great time, made a real ass of himself, but he had a great time. But he wound up he said he had like a 6-day hangover and was quite embarrassed about the things that he did and didn't remember most of the night. He was a mess, right? So he was embarrassed about that in front of probably a bunch of other celebrities or whatever. So anyways, here's his quote. Afterwards, he says, "I looked out the window and went, okay, John, what percentage of your potential would you like to have? Because if you say like 60 and you'd like to spend the other 40 having fun, that's fine. But what percentage of what is available to you would you like to make happen? There's no wrong answer. What is it?" And I went 100.
100, yeah.
And that was it. And that was his thing, was alcohol causes me to have a reduced version of myself for at least a day or two afterwards. That might be, he says 60-40. He's like, that's not a good deal. That's not a good deal. I don't want 1 or 2 hours of like a high over here that I'm an idiot about it anyways, and then lose a day or two at 60%. Nope. That's not a good equation. And he just made it more about math than chemicals. And I thought that was really interesting because
so good. Yeah, we've talked about that we've talked about him. I've got a couple. I love John. I'm a big John Mayer fan myself. I have a funny Atlantic City version of a story that I'll share offline. But my story that I will share is that I went to James Madison in Virginia, another school not as good as Bill and Mary, but
way better parties,
decent.
Way better.
Yeah,
atmosphere.
but we didn't have to leave. We did not have to leave the valley for the party. That is true. We had a good time. And to that point, we took a bus one time to Hampton, Sydney, for a John Mayer concert, because it was right when he had started and he was touring, doing his first record. And so it was like The Body is a Wonderland and Why Georgia Why, all those like sort of original smashes that he had, the first hits.
Yeah, good
right?
old days.
So we're at this show. I'm with my girlfriend and her friends and a couple of my buddies. It's probably like 12 of us that are sort of hanging together towards the front of the stage. Like, we're on the floor. All of a sudden, towards the end of the show, the girls are gone. Okay. Look around, no girls. And it's just my buddies and I. And we're like, where'd the girls go? Okay. This is like pre cell phones and stuff too. Like, you're not like just dialing your girl to be like, where are you at? Dude, 2 hours after the show, we're still waiting. We don't know where they are. They show back up to this, shuttle bus thing that we had rented. The dude had sent his security guard to grab them and brought him on his bus to hang out after the show, pre not stopping drinking. But he literally scooped all 6 of our girls, brought them on his bus, and then released them 2 hours later back to us. So legend. John Mayer as well.
So the point of that segment was, to me, is like from 2018 until now, the big change in culture is that mainstream personalities from the creators who are on every day with the young, the Gen Zs of the world and the younger millennials, they don't see it in the lifestyle. And then you've got these big celebrities who are probably being like, I'm done. It's fine. Brad Pitt, real public about it. John Mayer, some of these really iconic people who might make millions of individuals go, maybe You know, maybe they don't need the urgency or the emergency to consider choosing a better life because their heroes are doing that. I think we can say the mainstream media really helped bring that me total, not called that, into the limelight, into the mainstream over the past few years, which is great. It's a good time for products now and for everyone now to understand that that's an acceptable mainstream lifestyle approach and better in every way. Like, I think it's a great.
I think you nailed it. Mine was going to be it's more so it's socially accepted. Robert Patrick is another guy that we talked about a few different times, like the guy who was on Terminator 2 and The Unit, like that iconic actor. He's like this kind of rough, motorcycle riding, but his bike gang is the Booze Fighters, which is so cool, right? Like stuff like that. It's like all different levels of celebrity, right? Too, where it's just accepted. And I think that the other thing that we talk about all the time is the data is accessible, right? Like you can find whatever information about whatever you want in whatever context you want, pretty much anytime you want now, right? Mm-hmm. And the reality is alcohol is not good for you. And more people are talking about it, and more data is accessible to see that. And so the health sort of benefits and improvements, I think, drive that as well. And then just lastly, to your creator point, right? They have to be so self-aware, right? There's a self-consciousness about not only how they're presenting themselves, but also who they surround themselves with. And what I've realized as a non-drinker is how quickly somebody changes. 1 drink, 2 drink, certainly 10 drinks. And I think just needing to be at the top of your game, right, in the best version, it becomes really easy to realize how quickly that changes the alcohol.
I have a different opinion. So originally I was going to say COVID, but I'm going to switch my answer up. So I feel like if big alcohol wanted to keep you thinking that alcohol had any kind of redeeming qualities to it, that would still be the narrative. I feel like they're starting to give up on the stranglehold that they have because they're starting to see life outside of alcohol. So like if alcohol brands can own cannabis infused beverages or things that achieve the same thing without any of the side effects, why wouldn't you want to do that? Right. So not that they're going out and they're scooping them all up right now because there's a lot of regulatory red tape and stuff like that and still not societally completely acceptable. But I think they're starting to think, okay, I don't have to sell alcohol for the next 50 years to make money. So let's start letting the things out about the fact that alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen, right? That would have never come out 5 years ago when alcohol was still clinging on to their power and to their grip over society. But now that there's a possible way forward, similar to what cars were doing back 15 years ago when I worked in cars, they never wanted to convince you that the world was going to come to an end because of climate change. But now the electric car is out. They don't have to think about what they're going to do after fossil fuels. You know what I mean? So I think that lobbying has a big thing to do.
Yeah, excessive. That's the data. Yeah, for sure.
So are you saying you're going to throw out a prediction, Joe, that let's call it like 5 years from now, a company like Diageo may have a whole different subsidiary holding company called like Miagio? Where they lean into this, right?
Mitologio, Joe.
Mitologio. That's where my brand.
Mitologio, Joe.
I made that up right now. I got that one. I'm gonna get the trademark later.
Why would it have to be 5 years from now? There are companies that are creating products right now that will acquire other companies. They don't necessarily have to come from the AB InBevs or the Constellation brands of the world or Diageo's or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, those brands are absolutely going to get off of the sidelines once it is legally acceptable for them to do
once
so.
Once the stigma is officially gone. Yeah.
And once banking is cleared up, once insurance is cleared up and all that stuff, and it's safe for them to enter into the waters, 100,000%, there's going to be a ton of acquisition happening in this space.
I hope that's true. Because what those companies are probably doing all along is selling a good time. And the definition of good time is changing in a way that allows them to sell other things. And I hope that that's like the big, so what is that they don't have to be alcohol anymore. And that just fades back into a mix of possibilities. They get smaller and smaller over time. I do have to come back before we get too far away from Jam. You mentioned the public data of the health consequences and just the truth behind alcohol. I read a book recently. I have to plug it because if listeners on the show might really enjoy it. It's called This Naked Mind by an author named Annie Grace. And it was awesome to read. It's about alcohol and her journey to move off of it. I think she's an advertising marketing exec, like quite successful, doing a lot of presentations, speaking at a lot of conferences, and this is all in the book. and she's very comfortable drinking before, during, and after those things, like a couple bottles of wine a night kind of thing. And then she'd wake up in the middle of the night when the alcohol runs out, but the sugar is up, having panicky feelings like 3 a.m. and then drinks another glass or two to go back to sleep. Like pretty heavy. But anyways, her journey away from alcohol is not about, she's actually way more about just understanding what it is and the relationship to your body and your biology. Yeah. It's poison. And it's really bad for everything it touches. And it does this to you. And if you understand that, you can change your relationship with it by yourself on your own without a 12-step program and without calling it a disease. It's a thing you put in your body. That's not a disease. She pushes back on that. She says there are people who might have a very strong penchant for addiction and you need professional help and all that. She said for the vast majority, it's your understanding and your relationship. Anyways, very, very, very good book to read.
I've read that book. I loved it. And it is such a prime example and profound sort of additional mention of the fact that everybody's journey is different, dude. It's
and the one thing you also mentioned, realizing how different you are perceived, 1 drink, 2 drinks, 10 drinks. And there's a section of that book where she recommends that if someone is working on it with alcohol and they're very comfortable with alcohol, tell you what, go ahead and drink to your point of awesomeness. I feel awesome right now. Like I'm, out and being awesome at home, and then video yourself, do a little video call and talk about whatever you want to talk about, and then watch it later sober. And she said it blew her mind because she thought she was sharp and witty and funny. And when she watched it later, she was like, oh my God, is that how I'm being perceived to other people? And that helped her understand from an outside perspective, not just inside. What are you putting out there? What is that? How much less than 100% of you? Is it 98 or is it 48? And I didn't do that, by the way. I took a year off mid 2020 to mid 2021. I took a whole year off, which was great. Did some traveling. I went back to Tennessee. My dad was sick at the time and took care of some stuff with him. And then it kind of crept back into my life in between companies. There wasn't the urgency emergency, and there was a couple of weddings and whatever, this kind of stuff. So it crept back in. But then now the pressure is dialing up again. I know that I took a year off, and it was not the first 2-3 weeks where you think about it often. I did, at least. I was like, oh yeah, drink. Oh, well, no, I guess I'm not doing that. Right. And then after like 2-3 weeks, it literally was a tiny little thought every once in a while. They come, oh yeah, well, going to that picnic, but you're not going to drink. Then the rest of the year was fine. And then it was actually kind of hard to start drinking again because my body was like, yuck. After like 2 or 3 beers watching football, I was like, oh God, felt awful the next day. So anyways, I'm back on a run here that in my mind is, I don't need it, don't not need it, but I don't know why would I sacrifice even a portion of the next day or an evening or quality of conversation in any form for what I'm doing in life right now as a father, as a business professional, as a team leader, as a collaborator. It just doesn't make sense. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't have a drink. I suppose there's possibly some sort of client or deal or something where they're like, let's do a drink. And I don't say, hey, I'm not drinking. Yeah, there may be a time when I can't make
let's
that wait.
Let's fucking go.
Or what I'll do is go, I got it. I'll order it. And I order a club soda with lime and lie about it. I'm not sure about that. I haven't worked it out yet. But I just know that the sensible decision is to not do that. In my life, it doesn't make sense. I don't have a problem. The problem is when that's okay to do with your life and you're not living to your maximum. So I want to avoid that problem, not a one about drinking. So anyways, I'm a huge fan of what you guys do. I think it's so good to be talking about it because I think a lot of people quietly do this like it's a problem instead of a solution and creating a whole bunch of new opportunities, which is a great way to look at it. I think like we're talking about societally, culturally, great time to be talking about it too.
Well, we got to start wrapping things up. Man. Well, I'm going to cut it off. We'll have to have you back on for another episode. But before we go,
on my couch anytime, man.
Yeah. Before we go, knowing that you're kind of like more of a recent addition to the Me Total movement and your drive for now, but you haven't necessarily sworn off alcohol. I think it's interesting because you're probably the most unique person we've had on the show in the sense that like you might go back and it might be soon. Who knows? We don't know that yet. But while you are dry, we have a little segment that we like to call products and practices. What do you do to keep your mind off of it? I think I'm really interested in that for the people that are very new to this world of not being, exposed to alcohol on a daily or weekly basis. What helps you through this situation?
It's a great question. And I didn't know it was coming, so I got to think on the fly. First of all, to me, both times of like to 2020 and now, the first 2-3 weeks is the part where I needed something to even think about. Past that, there is no mechanism. I literally just don't. I don't. So, but for that first 2-3 weeks, for sure, getting up and moving around, like literally, like
Move
up,
your body,
walk around the block, do some push-ups or something. Just get up and move to get your brain taking in other information that isn't sitting in a chair thinking about drinks. And then just 5 minutes, it resets the thinking. And you'll think about something else and you'll see a bird or whatever. So for me, it was that. And maybe my own ADD or whatever I don't have ADD, but my own like perception of new things to look at worked for me. So get up and do something. Because if you sit there and think about the thing over and over, you'll weaken your resolve and you'll start to make up excuses. Be like, well, maybe we'll, maybe just what? No, just get up and do something. There was that. And also, I know we do not have time for it today, but dopamine is such a huge factor in human beings at all. Like motivation to do anything is all dopamine. That's like your currency of energy and excitement to do anything. And alcohol is a big dopamine blaster in your body. So, and your body, I've read, I think Annie Grace talks about this in the book, and there's a bunch of studies that show when you're thinking about having a drink, your body is producing the opposite of dopamine. I forget what it is, but it's producing
craving
stuff to lower your dopamine in anticipation of the boom coming. That's how efficient our bodies are. And so you feel down, makes you want to drink more. That is literally what a craving is. I think it's so fascinating. But if that's the case, figure out your dopamine, maybe go watch a TED Talk or maybe something that's like interesting that makes you think, you get excited about something. That's a good dopamine. And try and swap over and do that. So there's been times when I did that. I think I did go to TED Talks, some of my favorite podcasts, and just get into it. First 2-3 minutes are annoying because you're thinking about a drink, and then you're thinking about cool ideas, and you're broken the cycle. So awesome. I hope there's more study about the biology of cravings and motivation. I think Dr. Andrew Huberman has a lot of good stuff on that. Super fascinating, because I think the big problem overall biologically with alcohol is dopamine and what it does to your dopamine system. And it screws up your long-term goals and ambitions, and you get stuck. And then the only way you get through is having a couple drinks every night. And then you're in this thing that's really hard to get out of. Yeah. So that's my rant about dopamine, mini rant.
Well, that was a great rant. And Hank, you've been a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on. Folks that are in the listening audience, you know where to go, FUZZEEishpodcast.com if you want to listen to this or other episodes. I'd like to just extend my thanks and gratitude for you. It's been great catching up this week. And everybody, you've been listening to the FUZZEE'ish podcast and the future Chief Strategy Officer of Me Total Agio, Hank Leber. Hank, where can people connect with you on the internet, on the interwebs that are out there?
So my last name is Leber, Leber. That's rebel spelled backwards. That's
I always thought it was Lieber. That's crazy. I've been here for 20 years and you've never corrected me.
75% of people say Lieber. I don't even correct them anymore. But it's rebel spelled backwards, which isn't rebel. Same spelling pattern, Leber. So that's how we get the ladies right there. No. So Hank Leber, you can find that all my handles are the same. Hank Leber on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or anything. And then leagueofplay.com. We're pre-launched, but go ahead and sign up and stay tuned if you want to see what's coming. We got some really exciting stuff coming around.
Cool. The very non-neurodivergent Hank Leber. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you.
Love you guys.
Yeah,
Cheers.
thanks, Hank. Cool. Nice to meet you, man. Cheers.